In this video, we're going to take a look at inserting tables on a slide in PowerPoint. I have downloaded a template that I found online, and I'm just going to paste the URL in here. I'll also paste it in the notes below the video later. And since we're doing tables, this one also has a table that's built in, so we're going to take a look at this table right here. And when you select a table in PowerPoint, you get table tools up here, and there's two tabs below it. There's a design tab and there's a layout tab, and we're going to take a look at both of these options. But before we do, we're going to take a look at the ribbon for formatting tables in Word. So what I have here is I've just opened up a Word document and inserted a little table and then clicked on the table tools up here on the design tab. So I've got PowerPoint up here with the design tab for table tools, and I've got the same thing down here for Word. And we're just going to take a look at the ribbons here, and these things over here in the table style options. Let me drop this down just a little bit so you can read these labels down here for each group. They're identical. Then we have a bunch of table styles, and the only difference here is the style selections are not exactly the same, but the format of the ribbon is the same. We just got a wider ribbon down here. We've got an option for shading in Word. We've got options for shading in PowerPoint. We've got borders, and we've got borders in PowerPoint. We don't see effects here. We do see some options here for the pen. We've got a little draw borders group here, and we've got a little borders group down here that has this stuff looks exactly the same, these three items, and we've got some options here for drawing borders. Up here we've got one for actually drawing the table, so not exactly the same, but pretty similar. If you know how to do this in Word, then you almost certainly can figure out how to do it in PowerPoint. I'm going to take a look at the layout tab here and then the layout tab up here, and I just lost Word when I did that, so we'll flip back over to Word so we can lay it on top here. And I did not get layout. There we go. I had to click twice. And let's take a look at this. And over here we've got the same options under table. We've got a little draw box here that I think was on the design tab back in PowerPoint. And then we've got some options here for rows and columns, and these are almost the same. And let me just slide this over a little bit. So if I slide it over to about there, now these things line up underneath one another. We've got options for we've got a few options here that are a little bit different in Word, but if we slide this over a little bit further now, we've got the height and the width here, and just like in Word, these apply to the width and height of the individual cells. It says cell size down here, and we've got some options to distribute rows and columns. Here we've got 9 choices in Word. In PowerPoint it looks like we've only got 6, but you can pick any one of these and any one of these, so 3 times 3 is 9. So we've got the same combinations here. We've got options for text direction, margins. Sorting does not appear to be an option here in PowerPoint. We've also got some options here for specifying the size of the complete table, and some options for moving things forwards and backwards that it doesn't appear that we have down here in Word, but probably 80%, if not more, of the ribbon options are the same in PowerPoint as they are in Word. So if you've already done tables in Word, then you pretty much know how to do tables in PowerPoint. But we will close out of Word here, and we will still go over some of the formatting options here in PowerPoint. So let's go back and start on the Design tab, and we've got 6 options over here. And right now our header row is different. It's a bright yellow, and that's turned on. If we turn that off, it looks just like the other cells in the table. I'm going to turn it back on. A total row would be a row at the bottom that we want to look different. If maybe we've got columns of numbers or something, we want some totals to stand out at the bottom. I'm going to turn that back off again. We've got banded rows, which makes it easy to for the eye to follow across a row because we've got stripes there. If you turn that off, every row looks the same. I turn that back on again. Sometimes you got labels in your first column here. If you turn that on, your first column will look different. Sometimes you got some totals in your last column. If that's the case, you can make your last column look different as well. I'm going to turn both of those off. You can also do banded columns, which will make alternate columns shaded. Now, if you have banded rows and banded columns at the same time, that looks kind of stupid, so we're going to turn banded rows off. And now you can see the first column and the third column are the same, and all the odd columns would look the same, and all the even columns would look the same. Now, usually it's easier for people to read columns, and they have more trouble working their way across a row. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the rows turned on. That's probably what you would want most of the time anyway. Then we got a bunch of table styles here, and this does do a live preview. If we pause the mouse over each one of these options here, we can get a live preview. Click on the down arrow or the more button here. We can get a lot more options, and this does a live preview as well. Unfortunately, it covers up part of the table, but we can fix that by going up here and just clicking on a row here that we want, and that will be the main row that's visible up here in our table styles group. And now if we pause, we can do a live preview and we can see exactly what it's going to look like if we would apply that style. We've got options here for shading. If you want to shade something, you need to select it first, and you can select stuff in here just by dragging the mouse over it. So if I just want to select these 4 cells right here from Objective 1 down to Result 2, I can go to shading here and I can make those 4 cells look different. So you select anything you want and then you apply the shading. We can do borders here if we want to, and again you select what you want, and you can choose your borders. In Word, there's an option down here for more that lets you go into more detail and customize. Our borders options actually in PowerPoint are over here. So if you want a fatter border or a different style border, you can pick these 2 options right here. So I'm going to make a real big fat one here so we can really see it. And I'm going to pick a different pen color that will really stand out as well. Let's do blue here, and then I'm just going to draw whoops, I missed it. Let's try that again. Okay, so apparently as soon as you miss a border, which I've done twice in a row, you lose the pen, but I don't really need to do any more of that anyway. I'm going to undo the last couple of things here. And now we're back to our original table. We've also got some options here for effects. We can do bevels, shadows, and reflections. That is something that I think you're more likely to apply to the entire table rather than just some of the cells in the table. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select the entire table. We don't get that little plus sign here that we did in Word, so if you want to select the entire table, just go to the top here until you get your fat black arrow pointing down, and it looks like I missed it. Let's try that again. And drag it across. Now I've got the entire table selected, and now we can apply some bevels here. We should get a live preview of this stuff too, so it gives kind of a 3D effect to all of your cells here. We can apply shadows, and with this particular choice here, it's not really very obvious. Let's see if there's some down here that'll be a little bit more obvious. Okay, here we go. These perspective ones are pretty easy to see. The other ones are quite a bit more subtle. We can also do a reflection, and this would appear down below the table. And this is something I think you're probably more likely to do with a picture rather than with a table, but it is an option. We've got word art here. And if you click on the quick styles here, you get a bunch of options, and basically each word art quick style is a combination of colors and perhaps shadows and bevels and a few things like that. You can do this as a starting point, so I can click on this, and then if you want to change it, you can go in and customize it later on. So we've got a bunch of options here for customizing as well. We can change the color, we can change the outline, and we can change the effects. So we've got a bunch of choices here for effects on our word art as well. Okay, we've already done some of this border stuff, so we'll skip that. Now let's go to the Layout tab up here, and we can turn off viewing grid lines if we want to. Now any borders we've added are still going to be there. So if we did a print preview of this, we would not see these vertical lines here. Those are just for our use as we're formatting the table, so we can see where the cell borders are. If you want to delete something, you can go here and select whatever you want to delete, and you've got options for columns and rows. I just selected a row there, and I'm going to delete it, but I'm going to undo it here to bring it back. If I want to insert above, select the row, and you'll get a blank row above. I'm going to undo that. If you want a row below, insert below, undo that. If you want to insert columns, I'm going to select a column now before I start here. Let's get my fat black arrow and click on it. There we go. That one's a little touchy. You got to be just in the right spot to do it. And I'm going to do and insert a column to the left, and I'm going to insert a column to the right. And now this one was selected when I did the insert, so that's why it got inserted here. Let me undo that. And so yeah, that was selected. If I undo it again, and now this one is selected, and I do an insert to the right, it'll insert it to the right of that one. And one nice thing it does is automatically kind of resizes everything so they're all the same size. Let's undo that one as well. And let's go to merge cells here. Let's say I want to take all these cells up here on the top row and I want to merge them. They all become one. If you have text in all the cells, it puts all the text together in this single cell now across the top, and you'll probably have to go back in and do some more formatting. You can go back the other way and split. It wants to go to 2 columns. I'm going to tell it I want 3 so I can get back the way I was before, and click on OK. Now when I do, because all of this stuff was in one cell before, it leaves it in one cell now. It doesn't remember that I had 3 cells here before with some of the text in this one and some of the text in this one over here. So to get back to where I was before, I'm just going to do a couple of undos. Okay, so now I'm back to where I was before. And then we've got options for height and width. This is for individual cell sizes. And if I select, we'll select the whole thing here. And for height, I think I had 0.7 there. Let's do 0.8 and hit enter. And you got to hit enter. It doesn't happen until you're done. It knows you're done typing. We'll put 0.9 in there and enter. Now they're bigger. The width right now is 3.26. Let's see what happens if we can move that up to 4. If there's room for everything on. Whoops, I hit 40. 4 and enter. And it just barely fits. Let's grab the whole thing here with our 4-headed arrow and recenter it. If you have rows that are not the same height, let's go here and let's make this one kind of small. You can distribute all the rows evenly, and it'll go from the top to the bottom. So your table size will remain the same, but the size of your rows will be different. If you have columns that are not the same size, we can go in here and get our 2-headed arrow and let's resize the columns. And if I want those distributed, it'll make them all the same size as well. We've got some options here for alignment. Right now everything is left aligned. I'm going to center align it. And I just had that cell selected, so let's select the whole thing, and I keep missing that fat black arrow there. Let's do that. And now let's do center, and everything is centered, and our vertical alignment is top, middle, or bottom. Let's put it back at middle. So now everything's centered in the cell both vertically and horizontally. You can change the text direction here, but I'm not sure why you would need to do that very often. You can increase the cell margins. Right now those are fairly small. You can increase a little bit of the space between borders here. Usually there's not much of a need for that. You can change the font size, you can change the cell size, and you can change the alignment. Over here, this refers to the entire table. So remember, I set the columns to 4, and I've got 3 columns, so it's 12 inches wide. You can lock the aspect ratio on the table if you want to, so you can resize it and everything will stay in the same proportions. You can move things forwards or backwards. I'm not sure how often you can have overlapped tables. And you can also align. And let's go here and let's select the fat black arrow. There we go. Let's select all of them. And for alignment now, I'm aligning the entire table. This is for aligning the cells. This is for aligning the table. So I've got it. Let's do it center. You probably want it centered on the slide. And you may also want it aligned vertically on the slide, so that would be align middle. And so now we've got it perfectly centered on the slide. With this text up here, it kind of looks a little off-center, I think. So I'm just going to drop it straight down a little bit. And after I do that, it might be a good idea to go back and realign it left to right. And yeah, I got off by a little bit when I did that there. And that is pretty much all of the options here for formatting a table after you've created it. In another video, we'll take a look at how to actually create the table in the first place.